There is a crown that is not made of gold, silver, or precious stones. It is not placed on your head by kings, queens, or the approval of society. It is an invisible crown, one that is discovered within the depths of your own being. This crown is not granted to you. It is realized. It is not something to chase. It is something to awaken. And the moment you recognize it, the weight of seeking validation, recognition, and approval from the external world begins to dissolve. The inner crown symbolizes dignity without arrogance, power without domination, and confidence without noise. It is the silent authority that rises from deep self-awareness, from knowing who you are beneath the layers of expectations and conditioning. Many people spend their entire lives looking for crowns outside of themselves. They chase positions, titles, possessions, and applause, believing that these external rewards will grant them their true worth. But what they do not see is that the most radiant crown cannot be given by others. It must be worn inwardly, carried in the heart, and expressed through the way one walks, speaks, and lives. The challenge is that the mind is often restless. It wants to compare, to compete, to measure itself against others. It whispers, "You are not enough yet. You must earn more, achieve more, prove more." This is how people become enslaved to the endless pursuit of crowns made by the world. But those crowns are fragile. They can be taken away, replaced, or forgotten. The inner crown, however, is untouchable. No authority, no institution, no circumstance can remove it once it is discovered. To wear the inner crown is to live with rootedness. It is to stand tall without needing to look taller than anyone else. It is to carry a strength that does not shout, but simply exists. Like a tree, the crown of leaves above is only possible because of the roots below. In the same way, the inner crown can only emerge when you are deeply grounded in your essence. It is not a mask to wear, it is the natural radiance of authenticity. When one begins to touch the presence of this crown, the relationship with the external world changes. Criticism no longer shakes you as it once did, because the crown within is not dependent on praise. Failure no longer crushes you, because the crown within is not defined by temporary outcomes. Success no longer blinds you, because the crown within knows that true power is not in winning, but in alignment with truth. You begin to walk differently, not because you want others to notice, but because the weight of self-doubt has been lifted from your shoulders. The inner crown is also a reminder of responsibility. To wear it is not to feel superior, but to realize that your presence carries influence. How you speak, how you act, how you carry yourself, these all ripple into the world around you. A person who has discovered their inner crown does not need to dominate others. Instead, they naturally inspire others to recognize their own. This is the quiet leadership that does not demand followers, but awakens leaders in those nearby. Silence is one of the great protectors of the inner crown. It grows strongest when the mind is not entangled in constant noise, when space is created to simply be. In silence, you begin to see the illusions that once defined you fall away. The opinions of others, the fleeting rewards of achievement, the fragile labels of identity, they are no longer the source of your worth. In this silence, you begin to realize that the crown was always there. It was only hidden beneath layers of doubt, fear, and external attachment. It is also important to see that the inner crown is not perfection. It does not mean you never stumble or never feel pain. It means that even in moments of weakness, there is an awareness that remains untouchable. You may fall, but the crown is still there. You may struggle, but the crown is still there. This is why the inner crown is not about pretending to be flawless, but about recognizing the unshakable dignity that exists even in imperfection. The journey toward this crown is not about climbing higher, it is about sinking deeper. Deeper into presence, deeper into awareness, deeper into the recognition of your own being. When you stop searching outside, the crown inside begins to glow. It does not glitter to impress. It does not shine to blind, it radiates naturally. This glow is subtle yet undeniable. It cannot be faked because it does not arise from effort. It arises from authenticity. To discover the inner crown is to realize that your life does not need to be a performance. It does not need to be a race or a constant struggle for recognition. Instead, life becomes a movement of expression, a flowing of energy, a sharing of presence. This crown is not a goal to reach, it is an awakening to what has always been within. And when one lives from this realization, the external crowns lose their grip. They may still come, they may still go, but they no longer define who you are. The crown within is the mark of true sovereignty, not over others, but over oneself. It is not loud, it is not boastful, it does not demand to be seen. Yet those around you will feel it. They may not be able to name it, but they will sense it. This silent crown will influence more deeply than any title, any trophy, any external recognition. It will remain even when all else falls away because it was never given and it can never be taken. Energy is constantly speaking, but most people do not hear it. They are too busy chasing noise, running after distractions, filling their minds with endless movement, and in this rushing they lose the ability to listen. Energy does not shout. It does not demand. It whispers through sensation, through intuition, through the flow of life itself. And those who learn how to tune themselves to this language discover that energy is never random, never meaningless. It has direction, it has intelligence, and it has a way of guiding you if you are able to recognize it. When we speak of energy, we are not speaking only of what fuels the body. Energy is not limited to the calories you eat or the strength of your muscles. The energy that governs life is subtler, finer, invisible to the eye, yet deeply felt within. It is the vitality that moves through thought, through breath, through emotion, through presence. Every word you speak carries energy. Every thought you repeat vibrates with energy. Every action you take plants energy into the world. The language of energy is written across everything you do, whether you notice it or not. To understand this language requires patience. Just as one must learn the alphabet before reading a book, one must first learn to quiet the internal noise before hearing energy clearly. Silence is the first teacher. In silence, the pulse of energy becomes recognizable. You begin to feel how thoughts rise and fall like waves, how emotions shift like the wind, how physical sensations echo like instruments inside your body. Silence allows you to notice how certain environments lift you, how certain people drain you, how certain activities align you. The body speaks in this language constantly, but silence is the doorway to understanding it. Energy also communicates through balance and imbalance. When you are aligned, energy flows smoothly like a river without obstacles. You feel lighter, clearer, more present. But when you resist, when you cling, when you overindulge or suppress, energy becomes blocked. These blockages are not accidents, they are signals. A tension in the chest, a heaviness in the head, a restlessness in the stomach, all of these are messages. Energy is telling you where you are holding on, where you are refusing to let flow. To ignore these signs is to live disconnected from the very intelligence that is always guiding you. The language of energy is also spoken in intention. Every thought you project, every desire you hold sends out a frequency. If your thoughts are scattered, your energy is scattered. If your intentions are clear, your energy becomes concentrated. This is why focus is power. A single clear intention, held steadily, can shape the direction of life far more than countless random desires. Energy aligns itself with clarity, just as sunlight magnified through a lens can burn, while scattered light only warms without intensity. Intention is how you write your message into the language of energy. But energy is not only about direction, it is also about resonance. Like attracts like, and energy vibrates with what is similar. This is why your inner state attracts outer circumstances. If you hold resentment, you will find conflict repeating itself around you. If you cultivate gratitude, opportunities and connections flow more naturally. Energy mirrors back to you the frequency you maintain. To complain about the outer world without adjusting your inner vibration is to misunderstand the language of energy. The universe does not respond to words alone, it responds to frequency, to the silent vibration beneath the surface. The language of energy is ancient, older than any written script. Cultures across the world have given it different names. Kli, prana, life force, but the essence remains the same. It is not a philosophy to be memorized, but a reality to be felt. Breathing deeply, moving with awareness, resting with presence. These simple acts reveal the subtle flow of energy. With training, you begin to sense not only your own field, but the field of others, the atmosphere of spaces, the vibrations of situations. Energy communicates before words, and those who listen to it see beyond appearances. Energy also teaches rhythm. Just as nature has cycles, day and night, seasons of growth and rest, your own energy moves in cycles. There are times to act and times to withdraw, times to expand and times to conserve. To ignore these cycles is to exhaust yourself, to live against the natural order. To flow with them is to live harmoniously. The language of energy shows you when to push forward and when to step back, when to speak and when to remain silent, when to hold on and when to release. It is always guiding, but only if you respect its rhythm. The challenge is that most people try to control energy instead of cooperating with it. They force themselves to keep going when energy asks for rest. They suppress emotions instead of allowing them to move. They hold on to relationships, jobs, or identities long after energy has shifted away from them. This creates friction, exhaustion, and confusion. To truly understand the language of energy, one must surrender control and instead align with the flow. Surrender is not weakness. It is recognition that energy is wiser than the limited plans of the mind. And yet, energy also responds to discipline. Without discipline, energy scatters and leaks. Discipline channels energy like a river guided by banks. Through daily practices, whether breathing, meditation, movement, or mindful living, you shape the flow of energy with intention. Discipline builds the container, surrender fills it with life. Both are required to master the language of energy. To lean only on surrender may lead to passivity. To lean only on discipline may lead to rigidity. The true art is in the balance. When one begins to hear the language of energy clearly, life becomes a conversation rather than a struggle. Every challenge carries a message. Every opportunity reflects your vibration. Every relationship becomes a mirror. You no longer chase blindly, you begin to navigate. You no longer react unconsciously, you begin to respond with awareness. Energy speaks, and you learn how to answer. Through this dialogue, the ordinary becomes extraordinary, the unseen becomes visible, the subtle becomes powerful. Grace in action is not merely a poetic phrase, it is a way of moving through life with presence, awareness, and a calm strength that does not need to announce itself. Grace is often misunderstood as something soft, delicate, or passive. But in reality, grace is a form of power. It is the ability to remain composed when the world around you demands reaction. It is the ability to respond without haste, to move without forcing, and to act in such a way that your actions carry clarity and dignity. When grace enters action, every step, every word, and every choice becomes infused with balance. It is not about suppression of emotion, nor is it about pretending. It is about aligning action with inner stillness so that what you express outwardly comes from a space of harmony within. There is a silent strength in those who act with grace. They do not need to prove themselves to anyone, nor do they need to force situations into alignment with their expectations. Instead, they carry themselves with an energy that transforms the environment. Think of a river flowing steadily around rocks. It does not resist, it does not argue, it simply continues its course, wearing down even the hardest stone with its persistence. Grace in action resembles this quality of the river. It is the art of not fighting unnecessarily, of understanding that true impact comes not from loud force, but from consistent, deliberate presence. When one embodies grace in action, the focus shifts away from control and into awareness. Most people act from compulsion. They act from anger, from fear, from impatience, or from the desperate need to be recognized. These actions create friction, conflict, and imbalance because they are born from inner turmoil. Grace, however, does not arise from compulsion, it arises from stillness. It is a cultivated ability to pause, to observe, and then to act from clarity. This does not mean passivity. It means conscious movement. It means that every action carries weight, not because it is heavy, but because it is rooted in intention. Consider how often people regret their own reactions. A harsh word spoken in anger lingers far longer than the moment in which it was spoken. A decision made out of fear often creates consequences that demand years to untangle. But when one acts with grace, such regrets diminish because action is not taken impulsively. Grace teaches patience. It teaches timing. It teaches that not every response is necessary and not every conflict requires your energy. Instead of scattering energy across battles that do not matter, grace allows energy to flow where it has meaning. The body itself reflects grace when the mind is still. Observe someone walking with ease, posture upright, breathing steady. Their presence commands attention not because they seek it, but because their movements are aligned with calmness. Similarly, observe someone whose mind is restless. Their steps are hurried, their gestures are sharp, their tone unsettled. Their energy spills outward in all directions, and instead of creating harmony, they generate tension. Grace in action is not just about what is done, it is about the state of being behind the action. It is a reflection of the inner condition revealed outwardly. Grace also requires humility. To act with grace is to let go of the need to dominate or to win every argument. It is to understand that strength is not in proving others wrong, but in choosing actions that preserve dignity and clarity. A graceful action is one that uplifts rather than diminishes, one that resolves rather than escalates. It is not weak to step away from conflict. It is powerful to know when silence holds more truth than words. In a world addicted to reaction, grace is the quiet revolution. The cultivation of grace begins with awareness of the body and mind. When the breath is unsettled, actions will be unsettled. When the mind is chaotic, decisions will be chaotic. Therefore, to bring grace into action, one must return again and again to inner balance. Breathing becomes an anchor. Posture becomes a reflection of inner alignment. Thoughts become observers rather than dictators. And slowly, action transforms. What was once hurried becomes deliberate. What was once impulsive becomes considered. What was once reactive becomes responsive. Grace in action also reshapes how others experience you. Those around you sense when your movements are steady, when your words carry weight without aggression, when your presence feels calming rather than draining. This influence is subtle yet profound. A single person acting with grace can transform the atmosphere of a room. They can diffuse tension without saying much simply by embodying composure. This is why grace is not simply personal. It is relational. It extends beyond the individual and into every interaction. One might ask, how can grace be maintained in difficult circumstances? The truth is that it is in difficulty where grace matters most. It is easy to act calmly when everything is aligned with your desires. But grace is tested when situations do not go your way, when people misjudge you, when uncertainty weighs heavily. In those moments, grace is the strength to remain anchored in clarity rather than pulled into chaos. It is the discipline to choose patience when impatience tempts, to choose compassion when anger rises, to choose awareness when unconscious reaction seems easier. Grace in action is therefore a discipline. It is cultivated daily in small ways, pausing before speaking, breathing before reacting, moving with awareness rather than haste. Over time, this discipline becomes natural, and actions begin to carry a different quality. They carry a quiet force, an elegance born not of effort but of alignment. Just as a martial artist's strike can be both precise and powerful without unnecessary tension, grace in action demonstrates that true strength does not need to be loud or aggressive. It is efficient, clear, and unwavering. When life is lived with grace in action, ordinary moments transform. Walking becomes a meditation. Speaking becomes an offering. Listening becomes an act of presence. Even challenges become opportunities to refine composure and to deepen inner strength. Grace is not about perfection, it is about intention. It is the choice to bring balance into every step, into every movement, into every word spoken. And when this choice is lived consistently, grace becomes not just an occasional action, but a way of being woven into the fabric of life. Every moment we live is an intersection between what has been and what could be. At that intersection, there is always a choice. Some choices are small and almost invisible in their immediate effect, like the decision to wake up earlier, to take a deep breath instead of reacting, to listen rather than interrupt. Others carry the weight of destiny, shaping the trajectory of entire lifetimes. Yet whether small or monumental, each decision adds to a larger mosaic that becomes the legacy we leave behind. The truth is that our lives are not written by fate alone, they are authored by the sum of our choices, repeated and accumulated over time until they form an identity, a character, and ultimately a story. Choice is a double-edged sword. It is both liberating and burdensome. The power to choose means freedom, but it also means responsibility. There are moments when this responsibility feels heavy, because to choose one path is to let go of another. Each decision requires sacrifice, and sacrifice often brings discomfort. But this discomfort is not a punishment. It is simply the cost of clarity. The act of choosing shows us where our true values lie, what we are willing to prioritize, and what we are ready to release. The legacy of choice is not about making the perfect decision. Perfection is a mirage that keeps the mind restless and the heart unsatisfied. What truly matters is the awareness we bring to our decisions. A choice made unconsciously, out of fear or habit, will not carry the same energy as a choice made with awareness, presence, and intention. When we act with clarity, even mistakes become teachers. When we act blindly, even successes feel hollow. This is why presence is essential in the art of choosing, because it is not the result alone that defines us, but the consciousness we carry in the process. Consider the smallest habits repeated each day. These habits may feel insignificant in the moment, but over time they solidify into patterns of being. Choosing to move the body instead of neglecting it, to nourish instead of numb, to rest instead of burn out. These are choices that echo into health, vitality, and longevity. Conversely, choosing distraction over reflection, noise over silence, convenience over growth, these two leave a mark, though their weight is often invisible until it accumulates into suffering. The legacy of choice reveals itself most clearly in these subtle, repeated acts where the immediate cost seems small, but the long-term consequence is vast. Choice also extends beyond the individual. The way we choose to interact with others creates ripples that go far beyond what we can measure. Choosing compassion over judgment, patience over irritation, generosity over withholding, these decisions plant seeds in the lives of others that can outlast our presence. A kind word can live in someone's memory for years, shaping their own decisions and passing forward into their interactions with others. In this way, our choices become part of a chain of influence that outlives us, a true legacy carried forward by those who were touched by our actions. Yet one of the greatest obstacles to conscious choosing is fear. Fear of making the wrong decision, fear of missing out, fear of failure. Fear clouds the mind and paralyzes the heart, leading to hesitation or avoidance. But the paradox is that not choosing is also a choice. To delay, to stay passive, to wait for circumstances to decide for us. This too leaves a legacy, often one of regret. The absence of decision creates stagnation, and stagnation becomes its own outcome. Courage is required to choose, not because courage guarantees success, but because courage honors the truth that movement is life, and life cannot be lived through avoidance. Every choice also has a hidden mirror. It reflects back to us who we are in that moment. Choosing honesty over deceit shows us our alignment with integrity. Choosing resilience over resignation shows us our capacity for endurance. Choosing growth over comfort shows us our willingness to expand. And when we fall short, when we choose anger instead of patience, selfishness instead of generosity, this too is a reflection. It is an opportunity to see where we are still bound, where we are still reactive, and where we are still learning. In this sense, choice is both a path forward and a mirror backward, revealing to us the current state of our inner world. The legacy of choice is also a reminder of impermanence. No decision is final in the sense of absolute permanence. Even when one door closes, new doors open. Even when a path is chosen, the terrain shifts and new intersections appear. Life is not fixed but flowing, and our choices are stepping stones that guide us through this current. The legacy we create is not about one grand moment of decision, but about the ongoing willingness to meet life again and again with awareness, with courage, with humility. This is why the power of choice should not be underestimated. It is not merely about career, relationships, or external achievements. It is about shaping the very essence of how we experience existence. Each decision, no matter how subtle, is an affirmation of who we are and who we are becoming. To live with this awareness is to recognize that the true legacy we leave behind is not written in monuments, possessions, or titles, but in the choices we made when faced with difficulty, with uncertainty, with temptation, and with possibility. The legacy of choice continues even when we are gone, because the effects of our decisions ripple outward into others. The discipline we embodied, the kindness we extended, the resilience we demonstrated, these are remembered, carried forward, and often magnified in the lives we touched. Our choices become stories, our stories become lessons, and those lessons shape future choices in ways we may never see. Thus, even the smallest act of presence, of courage, of kindness, lives far longer than we imagine, becoming part of a living legacy that extends beyond time,